right next to the Conrad Weiser Pennsylvania Historic Marker. We're here at the Tulpehocken Path Marker. This is actually the beginning of the trail that went up through into like the Scranton and Wilkes-Barre region up to Sunbury. I think it mainly went to Sunbury, but it did go over into that Wyoming area. We had done one on Pilgeroo and one previously on the Tulpehocken Path. An Indian path from Shamokin, Sunbury, came over the mountains by the way of Klingerstown and Pine Grove to Weiser's Place in the Tulpehocken Valley. Chiefs of the Six Nation carrying the words of wampum to Brother Onis Penn at Philadelphia traveled this path. And once again, we're at Conrad Weiser Homestead, which is right up here. So we'll go more into depth about this and Conrad Weiser. Thanks, everybody.
In today's hometown history, we're discussing Tulpehocken Path. This map here shows where it started, Womelsdorf at Conrad Weiser's homestead, going the whole way up to Shamokin, or today it's called Sunbury, up to Fort Augusta. This was an extraordinarily important path, as we discussed with the historic marker itself, mainly for negotiations with the Native American tribes, but also the fur traders. This was a path that they used. Native Americans obviously used this for centuries upon centuries. You also had settlers that would use this path. Military probably to a degree, what small parties they would have, like would be scouting and that type of stuff, but it was overall, it was used for a way to get from Womelsdorf up to Shamokin or Sunbury. It also did go south down to Philadelphia to the colonial government, but you can't mention this path without mentioning Conrad Weiser and his importance as an interpreter and negotiator with the Native American tribes and villages and also the nations, because they had quite a bit of those negotiations were done by Conrad Weiser. He actually had spent quite a bit of time with, I believe, the Mohawk Indians, learned their language, gained their trust, and was quite important to history, and a lot of times is forgotten. I think it's noteworthy to mention as well, Tulpehocken is a Native American word. It means land of the turtle. There is some thought that it might be talking about turtle dove, but most likely turtle the animal is what it's talking about. A lot of times they would refer to something that could look like an animal. We talked about Jim Thorpe Mock Chunk is actually Native American origin, is the mountain of the bear, because the mountain before they did all the coal mining looked like a resting or sleeping bear. So they did that a lot of time to have place names, and therefore from Tulpehocken you had Tulpehocken Creek, and the area, Myerstown, for quite a while was called Tulpehocken Town. Sometimes it's also referred to as the Old Shamokin Road. There are quite a few neat things along this path. A lot of main roads. I believe you can start on 419 there at Womelsdorf, go over to 501. The original path goes down past Old Henry, or Fort Henry, so you have Fort Henry Road. And then when they change the road to 501 going over the mountain, you do have, that gets back on the original Tulpehocken Path, because at the top of the mountain, the Blue Mountain there's actually a ancient spring that Native Americans were probably using for thousands of years called Pilgeroo. Now, what the Native American name is, I'm not really sure, but it was named that, I believe, in 1742 by the Moravian missionary and the founder, really, of the American Moravian Church, Count Zinzendorf. He was in a party going up to talk to the Shawnee Indians with Conrad Weiser in the Wyoming territory, and they stopped at this spring, and he named it Pilgeroo, which means Pilgrim's Rest. There's also some pretty cool stuff up there. It goes through, starting there in Berks County, going through into Schuylkill County and through into Northumberland once you get up to Sunbury. There's also along there in Matahunga Gap, I believe also might be referred to as Klinger's Gap. There's a campsite there that a lot of people had stopped at called Double Eagle, which has quite a significance. And of course, going up to Fort Augusta, along the Susquehanna River, and it sort of follows that quite a while, like it follows the Swatara Creek as it crosses over the Blue Mountain there. That was commonplace that they'd follow these creeks going from place to place. And Fort Augusta was built 1736 to 1757, and you'll see certain maps of Fort Augusta. There's also a really cool at the north, I believe Northumberland, or Northumberland County Historical Society. They actually have a really cool model built of what Fort Augusta probably would have looked like where it is. It's not at the exact location, but it's still pretty neat. But this path played quite the role in negotiations and trade and just in travel in general. And it is neat how the roads, for the most part, are following the Tulpehocken Path. And as you go on this trail, and maybe we'll do this at some point, Cliff had done a video about it a little over a year ago, actually following Tulpehocken Path as closely as is possible via road. You'll go along these different roads, and then they'll have another Tulpehocken historical marker, so maybe we'll do that at some point and go through there. But it's a very significant trail. It plays a vital role in our history, especially during that French and Indian War period. But to the Native Americans, it was a sacred trail that led through these different areas and their paths amongst the different tribes and their trading and that type of stuff as well for a much longer time period. And of course, our history being settlers in this land. So with that, I want to say thank you for coming along as always on this adventure, and we will see you all about town.